The supernatural power of God is what separates Christianity from Buddhism, Hinduism, the Muslim faith. All of these faiths have one thing in common. They give you, some of them give you access to the supernatural, but you're worshiping a demon. You're worshiping, but none of them have the ability to raise the dead, heal the sick, cast out devils like Christians do, because our faith, our faith is true. Our faith is in the true risen Jesus Christ. Our faith is in God. Let me tell you about how I got saved. So when I got saved, I was, I got into the Baptist church. I was charismatic, but I was in the Baptist church. And I just began to long for more of God's power, because I had seen this church, boring church. I was tired of religion. I was tired. I'd been in ministry for years. And I said, God, there has to be more. There has to be more. And I began to God began to open me up to revival and revival history and Azusa Street and the Toronto Blessing. And I got around the Global Awakening people, Randy Clark, and these supernatural streams, where they begin to prophesy, they begin to heal the sick. I say, God, this is what I want. This is what I've been looking for. I've been in ministry for many, many years, but I was tired of church as usual. And this is really the key to supernatural. You got to be tired of church as usual. You got to be tired of dead religion, dead tradition. That doesn't change people. There's a lot of people in religion and it doesn't change you. But the supernatural power of God changes people. It opens their eyes to the reality that God is real. There are people all over the world. How do you prove, if you're in a Muslim country, besides the preaching of the gospel, how do you prove that Jesus is real? They can get up there and debate with you. I remember I was in a classroom one time, and I was witnessing to a group of students in a classroom. This is a secular classroom. This is a heathen school. This is a inner city school. And I'm preaching the gospel, and I'm getting nowhere. I'm getting nowhere with these students. They're trying to debate me about Christians and how it's not true and it's not real, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I began to say, God, how can I reach them? God began to say, prophesy. I began to prophesy to these students and get words of knowledge and words of wisdom. And God began to give me prophetic secrets. And I began to prophesy over these students. And they began to get saved. They began to get delivered. All of a sudden, their arguments were over. They can no longer argue with me, because when people have experience with a supernatural God, they can no longer argue with you. When you go to a Muslim country and you begin to see the sick heal, and you tell them God is going to heal everybody here, and this is how I'm going to prove that Jesus is greater than Muhammad, greater than Allah. I'm going to pray for these sick people, and they're all going to be healed. And then God begins to pick people up by their sick beds. This is how the gospel advanced in the world. And we have something called sensationalism that was taught during the time of the reformers and all this stuff that got into the church, that taught that God's supernatural power died with the apostles. There's still a lot of Christians that believe this. A lot of Baptist Christians, a lot of Methodists that teach that God does not do these supernatural acts anymore. It died with the apostles. I'm here to tell you that God did not die. What we teach when we teach that God is no longer supernatural, how can a God, the entire Christian faith is built upon the supernatural power of God. The entire Christian faith is built upon the resurrection from the dead. There's nothing more supernatural than somebody raising from the dead. And if Jesus, and if it died with the apostles, then our entire faith is in vain if we teach that there's no supernatural power. So when we teach that there's no need for the supernatural, we don't need that anymore. We have the Bible. The Bible is a supernatural book. The entire Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, is supernatural. Everything we believe is supernatural. We believe in Noah and the ark. That's supernatural. We believe in Genesis. That's supernatural. A snake talking. That's supernatural. We believe everything. I can go from the beginning of the Bible to the end of the Bible. The angels that appeared to the apostles throughout the early church. All the angels that appeared. The apostles and the visions they had. The trances they had. The miracles they had. The miracles that Peter, walking through in the shadow of Peter, healed the sick. All this is supernatural. And not only that, Jesus then says that his church is going to be supernatural and that we're going to do greater works than he did. So the church is called to do greater work. Christians America doesn't have a problem with Christianity. America has a problem with supernatural Christianity. You can be anything in the church, but the moment you begin to cast out devils, heal the sick, raise the dead, then all of a sudden persecution comes. All of a sudden that religious spirit begins to come. It begins to challenge you. It begins to say you are not welcome here. It begins to say you cannot no longer. It begins to attack, because the religious spirit knows that when the supernatural power comes to a generation, when the supernatural power comes to the youth of of America, when the supernatural encounters come to our churches, then all of a sudden people know that Jesus is no longer a dead religious figure. All the arguments begin to stop. Because the supernatural power of God ends the arguments. It kills all the arguments. And Paul said, I do not come. You are not preaching the gospel if you do not preach in the supernatural. If you do not preach it with power and demonstration of the